Did you know that as of 2025, over 181,000 Texans are living without a home, and that number is rising every single month? Major cities like Austin, Dallas, and Houston are seeing entire neighborhoods transform into sprawling tent cities. Sidewalk, parks, and even underpasses have become ground zero for a crisis that's been quietly growing for years, and now it's impossible to ignore. But how did it get this bad, this fast? Is it just about rising rent prices, or is there something deeper going on beneath the surface? From overwhelmed shelters to mental health breakdowns, from controversial city policies to the silent spread of makeshift encampments, we're diving into the heart of a situation most people don't want to talk about, but everyone is starting to notice. This isn't just a story about homelessness, it's a warning, a look at 10 Texas cities being reshaped before our eyes. And trust us, by the end of this video, you'll realize this crisis is a lot closer to home than you think. Number 1. Austin. Once hailed as the crown jewel of Texas innovation, Austin is now facing a humanitarian crisis that has become impossible to ignore. In 2025, estimates show that more than 6,500 people in Austin are experiencing homelessness, a staggering jump compared to just a few years ago. Once bustling neighborhoods and trendy downtown areas are now dotted with tent cities, makeshift shelters, and RVs parked in long rows along the roadside. Beneath the bridges and beside high-tech office buildings, two worlds now exist, and they're clashing more visibly than ever. The reasons are complex, but the pattern is clear. Soaring housing costs, a growing population, and a shortage of affordable housing have pushed thousands onto the streets. In just 5 years, rents in Austin have increased by over 40%, outpacing wages and pricing out even middle-class families. Combine that with underfunded mental health resources and limited shelter capacity, and the result is what many residents now call a city in crisis. The city's response has been mixed and controversial. In 2021, Austin voters reinstated a camping ban, forcing many homeless individuals to pack up and disappear overnight. But by 2025, that strategy has largely backfired. Instead of solving the problem, it's pushed camps into more hidden and unsafe areas, making the crisis harder to track and more dangerous for everyone involved. Locals are divided. Some feel unsafe and frustrated. Others are calling for compassion and systemic change. But one thing is certain, Austin's reputation as a progressive, booming tech capital now comes with a dark undercurrent that city officials can no longer ignore. And if it can happen in Austin, it can happen anywhere. Number 2. Dallas. Dallas, the shining star of North Texas, is a city known for its booming economy, luxury living, and glittering skyline. But just a few blocks away from those high-rise condos and upscale restaurants, another reality is taking shape, one that's impossible to look away from. As of 2025, more than 4,800 people in Dallas are experiencing homelessness, and the number continues to rise despite city efforts to contain it. Drive through downtown or under the I-45 overpass, and you'll see rows of tents, makeshift homes built from tarps and wood, and people trying to survive harsh Texas heat with no shelter at all. The encampments are no longer isolated. They're spreading into residential neighborhoods, parks, and even near schools. For many longtime residents, the change feels sudden, overwhelming, and deeply unsettling. Experts point to the same troubling factors: a lack of affordable housing, inflation, mental health crises, and a growing gap between wages and the cost of living. What's more alarming, a 2024 city audit revealed that Dallas shelters are consistently at 95% capacity, leaving hundreds without a place to go each night. Even well-meaning city programs are struggling to keep up with the demand. City leaders are stuck between public pressure to clean up the streets and activists demanding more humane, long-term solutions. In 2025, enforcement efforts have increased, but so have protests. The result is a city torn between two extremes, with growing tension on both sides. Dallas is a city of contrast: wealth and poverty, growth and decline, policy and chaos, all existing side by side. And with no sustainable solution in sight, many fear things are only going to get worse before they get better. Number 3. Houston. In Texas' largest city, the homelessness crisis has grown too big to hide. As of 2025, over 8,000 people are living without stable housing in Houston, and that number only reflects the ones that can be counted. From downtown streets to the bayous and wooded areas on the outskirts, encampments are forming in clusters, some stretching for entire blocks, others hidden deep in public parks and under freeway systems. What makes Houston's situation unique is its sheer sprawl. Unlike more compact cities, Houston's massive footprint means many camps go unnoticed until they're brought into the spotlight by news crews, emergency calls, or city sweeps. Residents report everything from unsanitary conditions to rising crime, while many unhoused individuals speak out about being harassed, displaced, or ignored by the system. The city has tried bold moves before. In 2022 and 2023, Houston was praised nationally for its housing-first approach, successfully housing thousands through partnerships with nonprofits and landlords. But in 2025, that progress has stalled, victims of inflation, housing shortages, and a drying up of federal aid. Now, waitlists for permanent supportive housing can stretch up to 12 months, leaving many back on the streets even after initial help. Community members are growing frustrated. Some feel compassion fatigue, others demand stricter enforcement. But a growing number of Houstonians are beginning to ask a deeper question. What happens when the system meant to help just can't anymore? Houston may be known for doing everything big, but that includes its biggest problem. And unless bold, coordinated action returns soon, this city may become the epicenter of Texas homelessness emergency. Number 4. San Antonio. San Antonio, famous for its rich history and tourist hotspots like the Alamo and the River Walk, is now facing a growing crisis that most visitors never see, but locals can't ignore. In 2025, the city is home to an estimated 3,100 unhoused individuals, and while that number might seem lower compared to bigger cities, it's the speed and visibility of the crisis that has residents concerned. What's striking in San Antonio is how the homeless encampments have begun to appear in high-traffic public areas. From the historic Missions to the popular downtown corridor, tents and tarps are being spotted near businesses, schools, and underpasses. And unlike years past, many of these camps aren't temporary. They're becoming semi-permanent living spaces, some even with improvised kitchens, storage areas, and community setups. City officials have launched various efforts, including expanding outreach teams and trying to connect people to emergency shelters. But here's the problem. Shelters are often full, and for some, the rules around sobriety or curfews make these options difficult or impossible. Add in a lack of affordable housing and rising rental costs, up by nearly 30% since 2020, and San Antonio is facing what some experts call a slow-motion disaster. For residents, the impact is layered: concern for safety, frustration with the lack of solutions, and empathy for those who clearly need help. Meanwhile, business owners fear for tourism, and some neighborhoods have begun organizing their own patrols out of fear the city isn't doing enough. San Antonio might not make national headlines yet, but the signs are clear. The crisis is spreading, and without swift, coordinated action, the Alamo City may soon find itself overwhelmed. Number 5. El Paso. In the far west corner of Texas, El Paso sits at the crossroads of two nations and now two crises. Known for its cultural vibrancy and cross-border community with Ciudad Juarez, El Paso is facing a growing homelessness emergency that's being intensified by a wave of migration, rising costs, and limited resources. As of 2025, local reports estimate over 2,000 people in the city are without stable shelter, a number that doesn't include many recently arrived migrants who lack legal status or support. The city's proximity to the border creates a unique challenge. Many people experiencing homelessness here are not just displaced locals, but also asylum seekers and refugees who arrived with nowhere to go. With federal shelters overwhelmed and immigration policies constantly shifting, El Paso's streets and informal camps have become a last resort for many in limbo. Encampments can now be seen near downtown bus stations, public parks, and desert outskirts, often hidden just out of view of major tourist routes. Some are small, temporary setups. Others resemble mini villages, with dozens of people living under tarps or inside abandoned buildings. City shelters and nonprofits are stretched to the limit, and with housing costs up nearly 25% since 2022, many low-income residents are now just one paycheck away from joining those on the streets. The emotional toll is heavy. Locals express a mix of fear, compassion, and fatigue, while outreach workers describe burnout and frustration with limited tools. Politicians are divided. Is this a border issue, a housing issue, or both? One thing is clear: El Paso is quietly becoming one of the most complex homelessness hotspots in Texas, where immigration, poverty, and policy collide, and the solutions are anything but simple. If this video opened your eyes, don't just scroll away. Drop a comment and let us know what's happening in your city. We put a lot of heart into creating content that matters, so if you found this valuable, hit that subscribe button. It's just one click, but it means the world to us. Number 6. Fort Worth. Often seen as the quieter, more traditional sibling to neighboring Dallas, Fort Worth is now facing a homelessness crisis that's becoming harder to ignore. In 2025, city data shows that more than 2,400 people are experiencing homelessness, a number that's nearly doubled over the past 5 years. And while the problem here may not make as many headlines, it's spreading faster and hitting harder than most residents ever expected. What makes Fort Worth's situation unique is how deeply it's embedded within everyday neighborhoods. Unlike other cities where camps are clustered downtown, Fort Worth's encampments are popping up under highways, behind shopping centers, and even along suburban greenbelts. Many residents report seeing the same faces day after day, people who clearly have nowhere else to go, yet remain largely invisible in the public conversation. Housing advocates point to the usual suspects: skyrocketing rent, job instability, and lack of affordable units. But there's a deeper layer here: a serious shortage of mental health services in Tarrant County. Outreach workers say many of Fort Worth's unhoused individuals are struggling with untreated trauma or addiction, and without proper care, shelters alone can't break the cycle. At the same time, affordable housing waitlists stretch for months, forcing more people onto the streets. City leaders are beginning to act, but progress is slow. Mobile outreach teams have expanded, and new pilot programs are being tested. But for many locals, it feels like too little, too late. As more families slip through the cracks, the question isn't whether Fort Worth has a problem, it's whether anyone is truly paying attention. And if it's hiding in plain sight here, how many other cities are just a few steps behind? Number 7. Waco. Waco, once best known for its historic charm and thriving college town vibe, is now battling a crisis that many never expected to see here. As of 2025, homelessness in Waco has increased by over 60% in just 3 years, with more than 800 people living unsheltered, a staggering figure for a city of its size. What was once seen as a big city problem has now arrived on Waco's doorstep, and it's growing faster than local systems can respond. The city's booming development and rising cost of living have outpaced wages for many residents. With new apartments and condos being built near the Brazos River and downtown, longtime renters are being priced out. Many find themselves suddenly without option and end up in encampments tucked behind shopping plazas, under freeway ramps, and even in wooded areas just minutes from Baylor University. Local shelters are trying to respond, but they're overwhelmed. There are fewer than 300 shelter beds available in the entire city, and demand has far exceeded capacity since late 2024. Nonprofits and churches have stepped in, but they're facing funding shortages, volunteer fatigue, and inconsistent support. Meanwhile, public opinion is starting to shift. Some residents call for compassion, while others demand cleanups that often result in forced displacements without solutions. Perhaps most unsettling is the emotional toll this crisis is taking on Waco's identity. For many, it's heartbreaking to see families living in tents near schools, or elderly individuals panhandling outside grocery stores. For others, it's a wake-up call, a reminder that no city, no matter how small or quiet, is immune to this growing epidemic. Waco may not be the largest city in Texas, but its story is becoming all too common. Number 8. Lubbock. Lubbock, the heart of West Texas and home to Texas Tech University, has long been known for its wide-open spaces, strong community ties, and affordable living. But in 2025, that reputation is starting to crack. The city is now witnessing a sharp and visible rise in homelessness, with estimates suggesting nearly 1,200 people are currently unhoused, double the number just a few years ago. What's happening in Lubbock is a perfect storm: rapid population growth, an influx of students and new residents, and a housing market that simply can't keep up. Rents that were once manageable have surged by nearly 35% since 2021, making even basic apartments unaffordable for many low-income workers and families. Add in a severe lack of transitional housing and mental health services, and the result is clear: more people on the streets with fewer places to go. Encampments are now showing up in places Lubbock residents never expected: near university buildings, under bridges along the Marcia-Sharp Freeway, and behind shopping centers in central neighborhoods. Many people experiencing homelessness here are not just individuals with addiction or mental health struggles. They include working families, single mothers, and even college students living out of their cars. City officials have launched several task forces, but local advocates argue that the efforts are reactive rather than proactive. Cleanup sweeps displace people temporarily, but without long-term support, they simply relocate, often into more hidden and dangerous areas. Meanwhile, community frustration is building, and the once strong neighbor-helping-neighbor culture is being tested like never before. Lubbock's story is a powerful reminder. When economic growth isn't paired with housing support, progress comes at a devastating cost, and those who fall behind are being left with nowhere to go. Number 9. Corpus Christi. Known for its sun-soaked beaches and Gulf Coast breeze, Corpus Christi is a tourist favorite, but beneath the palm trees and ocean views, a very different reality is unfolding. As of 2025, the city is seeing an alarming rise in homelessness, with more than 1,300 people living unsheltered, many of them in places you'd never expect, like beachfront parks, marina walkways, and even dunes near the shore. For years, Corpus Christi's homelessness issue flew under the radar. But now, encampments are impossible to miss. Tents pitched along Ocean Drive, makeshift shelters near the harbor, and entire communities forming in neglected parts of downtown. What was once a vacation destination is slowly becoming a battleground between image and reality, as local leaders struggle to balance public perception with a deepening social crisis. Experts point to several root causes: rising rent prices, a major shortage of affordable housing, and the economic toll of past hurricane damage, which still lingers years later. Many working-class residents were displaced and never recovered, while limited mental health resources and addiction services have left others with nowhere to turn. And with tourism being the city's lifeblood, there's immense pressure to keep the issue out of sight, a strategy that has only made things worse. City efforts have included enforcement crackdowns and short-term shelter programs, but with few permanent housing solutions, the cycle continues. Locals are torn. Some want stronger intervention, others are volunteering, donating, and demanding compassion. But one thing is clear: Corpus Christi is facing a turning point. Because when the people who once served the tourists, cleaned the hotels, or worked the docks are now sleeping steps away from the boardwalk, you know the system is broken. Number 10. Midland/Odessa. In the heart of the Permian Basin, Midland and Odessa have long been known as boomtowns, cities where fortunes rise and fall with the price of oil. But in 2025, it's not just oil field jobs that are drying up, it's places to live. Together, these two West Texas cities are now facing one of the fastest growing homelessness crises in the state, with over 1,000 unhoused individuals reported and many more likely uncounted, living in vehicles, tents, or makeshift shelters on the outskirts of town. The housing market here is brutal. During oil booms, rent prices skyrocket, with one-bedroom apartments going for as much as $1,500 per month, far beyond the reach of low-income workers. When the busts come, jobs vanish, but the housing costs don't drop fast enough, leaving countless workers trapped in a city that no longer has room for them. Many who once earned good money in the fields are now living in parking lots or camping along county roads, trying to figure out what went wrong. Unlike larger metro areas, Midland and Odessa have very limited shelter infrastructure. The few available beds are constantly full, and wait lists can stretch for weeks. Local churches and small nonprofits are doing what they can, but there's no large-scale system in place to deal with what has become a structural crisis. Meanwhile, city officials often avoid the spotlight, wary of how the issue might impact economic investment or public image. But no amount of silence can cover what's visible to everyone now. Tent cities on the edge of oil fields, families sleeping in trucks at rest stops, and former workers who helped build this region now completely abandoned by it. Midland and Odessa show us that even places built on wealth and opportunity can crumble when housing is treated like a luxury, not a right. From the high-tech streets of Austin to the oil fields of Midland and Odessa, one thing is painfully clear: Texas is in the middle of a homelessness crisis, and it's no longer confined to just the big cities. These encampments, these human stories, are no longer hidden in alleyways or beneath bridges. They're in our parks, near our schools, along our highways, and they're growing. What makes this so urgent isn't just the sheer number of people affected. It's the fact that many of them used to live lives just like ours. Teachers, construction workers, veterans, single parents, college students, all pushed to the edge by rising rents, medical debt, job loss, or untreated mental health issues. And for every one person you see living in a tent, there may be 5 more living in cars, crashing on couches, or just one paycheck away from the same fate. The truth is, this isn't just a Texas problem. It's a warning, a signal that the systems meant to protect us, affordable housing, healthcare, mental health services, and emergency support, are failing faster than we can fix them. But here's the hopeful part: awareness is the first step. When we see the issue clearly, we can talk about it, vote on it, push for change, and support the people doing the real work on the ground. Because no one chooses to be homeless, but we can choose what kind of society we become.